All right, guys, welcome to another live stream. Welcome to another live stream. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. All right, so in today's live stream, we're going to talk about why you need to know your number. Knowing your number is very important. It's a must. And what number are we talking about? We're talking about the number you need to retire, the number you need to not be going to work, not be working your 9 to 5, or maybe you do work your 9 to 5, but you have this number here or this money in your bank account or an asset, so that way it can provide you a financially not stressful life, essentially, right? So there's 3 reasons why you need to know this number, and let's get right into those reasons. So number one is your drive. You won't have drive if you don't know the number. I mean, if you think about everything that we do, and hopefully this is not chopping up, but if you think about everything we do, when we go to the grocery store, when we take a test, when we go to the mall and we buy something, we know what result we're going to get when we do a certain action, when we give up certain money, when we commit a certain amount of time, we know what we're going to get. But a lot of you don't know that for the number you're going to need to retire comfortably, right? And this is important. If you're working a 9 to 5, and you don't know that number, you're going to be working until you're 60, and then you get to that age, and you only have a 401k with a couple $100,000 in it. So it's very important to know that number because it's going to make you want to get up each morning and work towards that number. A person that thinks their number is $10,000 versus a person's number that's 1 million is going to have a different type of drive, right? There's a different type of drive to get to 10,000 versus 1 million. So that's the first thing you need to do. You need to know the number because your drive is going to be affected. And it's so important because drive is everything, especially when those days that you don't feel like doing anything, you could reflect back to that number and you could say, okay, well, this is my number. If I don't do anything today, I'm not going to get closer to that number and I'm not going to get to my goal. So that's also important because there's going to be a lot of days where you say, okay, I don't feel like doing anything. Or maybe there's just a lot of distractions and things like that. And you need to be able to push through. I know for me, there's a lot of days where I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like recording a video. I don't feel like going to the gym. And again, the gym is not directly connected to getting to my number, but it helps me get through the day, right? So again, your drive is going to be affected if you don't know that number, and that number needs to be clear. And you need to have it written down so that way you can refer back to it during those times where you're kind of doubtful and you think you can't make it, right? So that's number one, your drive. Number two, your investment strategy. Your investment strategy is going to be so important to you getting to that number. But if you don't know that number, then your investment strategy is not going to line up with that number. And again, towards the end of this video, I'm going to give you guys what I believe the number is according to my life, or what I think and what I see in the economic landscape and how much things are costing. So I'll give you guys my estimate on what that number should be. But yeah, your investment strategy is going to be determined by that number. Again, I give the example. If you're a person that thinks that number is like 40, 50,000 versus a person that knows that number is like upwards of 1 million or more than that, you're going to be doing 2 different things, right? And again, I'm not going to crap on certain occupations and things like that. But if you're a person that's driving Uber and you're thinking you're going to get to that $1 million number driving Uber for the next 30 years, then you're sadly mistaken, right? You need to make sure that you know that number because your investment strategy is going to line up. You can easily say, okay, my number is, let's just, again, I'm using that $1 million, that $1 million figure. My number is this. I can't get to that number driving Uber or working at a retail store, right? I need to be innovative in my investment strategy in order to get to that number. And you won't be able to to do that if you don't know the number. So yeah, your investment strategy is going to be very important. I see a lot of people out there that have such huge dreams of getting to 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, but then you look at their investment strategy. One, they don't have an investment strategy. They're not investing at all, or they're just working at a 9 to 5 and they're doing their 401k. Right? I hear people again at the 9 to 5, working a regular job, talking about, oh yeah, I want to be on an island. I want to have a couple $1 million. But again, you're working a 9 to 5. You're also not getting a promotion. You're not moving up in rank. So not only your investment strategy, but the stuff you do for your just regular income, right? To get to that investment strategy, it's not going to be there. So your investment strategy is going to be affected if you don't know that number. It's going to vary between people that have a smaller amount or just not in the know and don't know that number versus somebody that does know that number. I see it all the time. Again, people are delusional. And again, it also is going to give you the drive to find that investment strategy. You're going to say, hold on, wait. What I'm doing right now is not going to help me at all. I need to figure it out. It's going to allow you to get into that research process of finding ways to get to that number. So that's important too, because I was on that journey as well in the beginning, and still on that journey. But I think I'm on the right path to get to my number because I was able to try out multiple things and say, okay, this didn't work, but at least it would probably get me to that number, but it doesn't work for me. So now I'm going to move on to the next thing. But at least everything that I'm working on from an investment strategy perspective adds up mathematically. Like I can add up and say, okay, if I do this for 3-4 years, it's going to get me to my number. And it should be very concrete like that. You should be able to add up the numbers, add up the amount of productivity you're going to do, and it should get you to that number. So yeah, your investment strategy is going to be very important for getting to that number, and knowing that number is going to impact that investment strategy and what you do on a day-to-day basis. All right, number 3, plan better. Once you know your number, you're able to plan better. You're able to set things in the future. Again, I mean, I know we live in a culture where a lot of you just have kids out of nowhere and things like that, or you just do things. Maybe you set up a vacation plan and things like that. But once you know that number, you're going to know how much money you're going to be getting in the future. Obviously not counting for inflation, or maybe you do count for inflation, but maybe it's off slightly. But for the most part, you're able to plan better because okay, this is my number. When I get to it, I'm going to be able to take this amount of trips a year, right? Or with this amount of money, I'm going to be allowed to do this. You're just able to plan your schedule a lot better. You're able to make a lot more financial decisions earlier on because you already know that number. So okay, once I get to this, I'm going to be allowed to do this, that, and the fourth. But if you don't know that, you won't be able to plan. Or if you have the wrong number, your planning is going to be off, right? If you're a person that thinks your number is 100K and think you're going to be going to Italy, Greece, and this when you're 40 or 45, you're sadly mistaken, right? Those trips cost thousands of dollars, and a lot of things cost a lot of money, and you need to plan appropriately, or you need to know that number, the exact number, so that way you can be able to plan appropriately. And you can say, okay, I'm going to get here, and this is going to allow me to do this in the years that I don't really want to work. And again, it's not about not about working, but it's about having the option to do stuff. Essentially, this is all about having the option to do what you want to do, and knowing that number is going to help you with that. So those are the 3 things that are affected when you know the number. Again, we'll go over the list. Number 1 is your drive. If you don't know your number, you really won't have drive to wake up in the morning and do what you need to do, especially if that number's small, right? It's going to be your drive is going to be totally affected if you don't know that number or it's just way off. Your drive is not going to match up. Number two, your investment strategy. You don't want to be a person that's lowballing what that number is, and then your investment strategy really doesn't match up. And again, it should be mathematically. It should be something where you can pen to paper and say, okay, with this investment strategy, it's going to get me to my number in to 5 years, right? Just for an example. And then number three, once you know that number, you're able to plan for the future accordingly, whether it's medical, vacations, unplanned expenses, and things like that. I think knowing that number is going to just help you be a better overall planner, right? All right, so what is that number? For me, again, kind of the rule of thumb for this is the rule of 200. So whatever your expenses are each month, you take that number and you times it by 200, right? So if my expenses I know are going to be $5,000 a month in the time where I don't want to work, then you take 5,000, you times it by 200, and then you get $1 million. So now if you're a person that says, okay, 10,000 is going to be my number, then 2 million is going to be the number you need, right? So yeah, so that's kind of the rule of thumb. So whatever your expenses you believe are going to be, just take it and times it by 200, right? In my opinion, everybody, I actually mentioned this the other day, but I think you can get by with $1 million, but I think 2.5 is probably the number that will be most comfortable for everybody. It'll bring you around $10,000 to $12,000 a month, and I think that will be a good amount. I'm accounting for rent prices today, food prices today, and again, a lot of us are not quitting today, right? A lot of us are not retiring today, so it could be a lot worse in the future. So, but for me, I think $10,000 to $12,000 a month is a good cushion to go on the vacations, because you got to remember when you're retired, you want to go on more vacations. You do a lot more things because you're going to have a lot more time on your hands. But yeah, that is the reason why you need to know your number. I think I'm going to go live later on today. I'm going to do another episode of Talking Finance while playing chess. I'll probably do that later on tonight. But that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.